Hi there, just a quick video on the Bosch PBD40 from a metalworking perspective. Most of the videos online are people for doing woodwork. There are a couple of examples of people who go with metal, but I've primarily bought this to do metalwork because in the tasks that I do, hobby, DIY and what have you, it's mainly metalwork. I bought this mainly because of the variable speed. It's got a 1 or 2 speed gearbox. The speed one's about 200 to 800 or 850 RPM, which is ideal for metalwork. It'd be nice if it went a little bit slower than 200 RPM, but I've actually tried reaming a 13mm hole and it's fine at 200 RPM. The machine has plenty of power. It's got torque control, so it tries to maintain the RPM of the motor even when it's under load. I've drilled holes up to 30mm, albeit with a pilot hole. Machine doesn't struggle at all. I suspect it would probably be able to go a little bit further than this, and probably quite a lot further using hole saws or hole cutters. So I bought it knowing that there's potentially an issue with the chucks and a bit of wobble in the spindle. Actually, I'm quite happy with the chuck. Actually, I like the way it works. There is some spindle wobble. I've done a rough run out with a DTI on it, and it's running about 0.1. But there's definitely spindle wobble. I wouldn't change the chuck at the moment without fixing the spindle wobble, because who knows if it's the chuck or the spindle or whatever. For metalwork, I think that is definitely a mod I will do down the road. There's a mod online where you take the gearbox bits and replace the rear end bearing on the shaft. I think somebody did it with a couple of miniature ball bearings, and I've seen, I think, a video of somebody doing it with a brass bush. But either way, it would make the machine a lot better. But actually, the machine runs fine as it is. But I think it would definitely be an improvement. So my plan is to use it as it is until the warranty runs out. And presuming there's no other problems with the machine, I'll then take it to bits and change the bearings. It's probably an evening's work pottering about on the bench, so not too bad a job. It drills, well, I would hope it drills at least as good as this pillar drill, it seems to. The lower RPM is handy because when this tends to chatter a bit, being like 390 RPM, you get a 13mm drill bit in it, and because of the play in the Quill, it tends to shake about a little bit of vibration, and this does seem better. The other advantage I can see for metalwork is I do a bit of sheet metal work, is I can clamp stuff straight to the table here rather than struggling about with this small table on here. You can see it's hardly big enough for the vise, and very often I have to swing this out to an angle. The other problem with this is with a lot of smaller pillar drills, only 50mm of quill travel. I think this is getting on for about 90, if not more. So the problem with that one, you're up and down with the table all the time, changing drill bits. So when you go from a pilot drill, which is like 50mm long, to like a 3.5mm to pilot drill, which is about 60 or 70mm long, you're up and down with the table all the time. And I say a large stable base. I'll probably put some sacrificial material on here, such as thin MDF or something similar. Why the Bosch machine? There's not many alternatives really. I think Shepach do one, and I think they're selling in Aldi, and there was Shepach, I think we're making one for Lidl as well. This machine's been around for quite a while, and there's 2 or 3 companies online the spares are readily available. I'm sure this has been going, I've seen some reviews on it going back to like 2013, so I imagine it's 7 to 8 years old now. Plenty of machines out there. The reviews are reasonably good. A couple of negative ones. I think people's perhaps expectations are quite high. It's a £250 machine. Yes, it's not cheap, but for this type of machine there aren't many alternatives. I chose a Bosch. I thought I can see this machine, it's got its limitations, so if you go to the best available in this sort of style, you're giving yourself the best chance, rather than going for something 150 quid and going, well, I'm disappointed, I wonder if the Bosch was any better. So yeah, overall, we're all pleased. The other advantages, obviously, I've got a fairly small workshop. If you want to do something a little bit bigger, drill some box section, you can take it outside, take it to a bigger area, put it in the garage, clamp it to a workmate, put it on the floor if you want to work on the floor. I've seen a YouTube video with somebody, I think it was a small section RSJ, drilling holes in it with no problems whatsoever. So overall, I think it's a good machine, with the caveat, knowing that it had this spindle play, the caveat being that I would definitely want to improve that. I think it would make the machine a lot better. As far as the general play on here, it's not too bad at all. No, definitely no worse than the pillar drills I've got. I've used, you've probably come here because you're looking at this type of machine, so you're probably aware of all the problems or the hassle of changing belts. I've used quite a few belt machines, and I just go through a couple of things. My point of view with those, you go on a forum and everybody's saying you want to get yourself an old Mennings with a gearbox or Fobco or whatever. Those sort of old school machines have gone silly money on eBay, plus they're usually miles away from where you live, so you can't pre-check them. And I've had old equipment, I've got a Myford lathe and what have you, and there is some usually refurbishment that's required on motors, VFDs, that sort of thing. So it's not an old school pillar drill isn't an easy option, to be quite honest. In fact, that was my intention. I've got an oldish record pillar drill down there, which I bought second hand. It's hardly been used. My intention was to, and actually I've got it here, a 3-phase motor with a VFD. It's a solid machine, but then when I came to it and the restrictions in the casing to get the right size pulleys in, I just found you'd still probably need 2 or 3 different pulley speeds, plus the VFD, plus I was having to machine motor mounts, plus only still 50mm travel on the Quill. And actually, although it's a robust machine and hardly been used, there's almost as much play in the Quill as my cheapo one over here. I considered the Warco, and there's the Axminster Trade. I've used an Axminster Trade one on a regular basis, actually 2 different ones. They're not brilliant. I would say actually belt adjustment is no better than that. And actually the one we've got in one workshop, actually I don't know, something's funky's gone on inside the belt adjustment, the little levers, something's come adrift in there. And you'll just always find it's a hassle and the belt slip. Also, I've used on a regular basis a Myford with the 2-speed gearbox. Again, really, really nice drill, solid drill. I'm not taking that away from it. But still, even with the gearbox, you find the low speed, there's a lot of difference between the low speed and the high ratios. So you really, really do need to still change belts. It's not, nobody just uses the machine in 90 RPM and 300 RPM. There's all the variations in between. So that's the reason why I came to this £250. I thought, well, if it ends up being relegated just to DIY and woodwork, fine. I say I'm going to give it a go. I think it's a good machine for the money, and I said there's nothing really else that compares to it unless you go into the over £1,000, 1,500 bracket, which that buys you a lot more tools. Okay, I hope that helps.